Hi, good night everyone. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe, and I am here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. So if you have a question, if you're going through the process, you're thinking about going through the process, even if you have been through the process and you have a U.S. immigration question, go ahead and put your questions in the comments or in the Q&A option, and I will gladly answer your question. So I am here every night with very few exceptions. There are some nights when I am, some days that I have other engagements, but I try to come on every single day. So if you know that you're going to have a question in the future, you can feel free to go ahead and follow me. And as soon as you see me go live, you can put your questions in the comments, because you are my priority. Your questions are my priority tonight. I always like to close out the night with you all. And I also want to formally introduce myself to those of you who don't know me. I'm U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe, and I help clients to get their green cards and their status in the United States. So if this is something that you can relate to, it's something that you want, now is your chance to take advantage of having an immigration attorney right here in front of you to answer your immigration questions. Hi there, thanks for joining in. I'm seeing a few people who I usually see, like Tug 1981. Hi there, Sassy Ever Bless. It's nice to see you. Go ahead and put your questions in the comments. That's why I'm here. It's to answer your questions. So if you don't have a question, though, just know that I will continue to show up to answer your questions. So this will not be your last opportunity to answer questions. I'm usually here around this time. Hi there, Teacher Steve 37. It's nice to see you. Queen B, it's nice to see you. So I usually come with a topic to talk about. And Queen B, thanks for sharing the live. So I have been talking about the topic, and I've been talking about this because there are so many people who want to know this information. And it's, if you're here in the United States without status, how can you fix your status? I'm going to touch on 3 ways that can be done. And then I'll leave it up to you. If you want further information, if you would like to schedule a consultation to talk about your particular circumstance, then you know where to get through to me. What is the next move after submitting the I-485 application? So assuming that is properly filed, then the next step would usually be the biometrics. In some cases, they would sometimes right now, because of the backlog, they're trying to clear the backlog. If you have done a fingerprinting appointment in the past and they have your fingerprints, they're sometimes waiving that the appointment and just applying the fingerprints they already have to the background check. But if they, the next step is usually the fingerprinting appointment to enable the background check. So keep those questions coming, because that's why I'm here. I'm here to answer your questions, and while your questions are coming in, I am going to talk about how to fix your immigration status if you're here without your papers in the United States, in some cases without leaving, and in some cases staying partially through the process. So Tug 1981, do you think you should take a lawyer for her marriage-based interview? So you're never going to catch me saying never go with an attorney. It is the client's decision. It's always the individual's decision whether they want the attorney there. However, what I can say is, if your gut is telling you need an attorney, you want to make sure that somebody's there to have your back, especially when it comes on to the complexities of the process or any legal issues that may come up in the process, then definitely consult an attorney. Or if you already have an attorney, make sure you request the attorney's attendance at the interview. There are some cases where an attorney can be helpful, especially if the interview starts to go south and maybe if the officer is making some sort of error then the attorney can step in and, step in on your behalf and advocate. So it just all depends. It's the individual's decision, but you're never gonna catch me saying no. Always consult an attorney first. I did one a little over a year ago. So Teacher Steve, yes, there is a backlog, and so their time is much longer. If you did do a fingerprinting appointment a little over a year ago, they may waive it. It really is up to the USCIS to determine whether they're going to waive it or not. But I am seeing where they're waiving those biometrics. And skipping straight to maybe issuing the work permit or the next step in the process. So if you are going through the immigration process, especially if you're thinking about going through the process, consult me. I'm an immigration attorney, and I can help you to avoid mistakes. I can help you to determine whether you qualify for whatever you're thinking about. Now, how to fix your status if you're here in the United States and you're without your papers and you want to stay in the United States. So there are two main ways, and these are family-based. So my EAD card is expired soon, and I applied since April for renewal, and I didn't get anything. So user 176, it's taking about 6 to 8 months to get even renewals. So keep that in mind. But what you should be doing is if you have you got your receipt notice. So the receipt notice from the work permit, it will, if you do have if you're applying for an immigration benefit that allows you, or you're going through the adjustment of status process, they are now extending those. They have automatic extensions of the work permit for 6 months. You just have to show that receipt notice along with your expired card, and that should extend it for 6 months while your renewal is pending, but it all depends. So I didn't get any receipt notice yet. So user 7176, what you need to do is contact them to make sure they got it, make sure there's nothing, they didn't reject it. So contact them, see if you can speak to a second level officer who can help you further on your case. So that's what you'll need to do because you already submitted it. How long for the citizenship process? Well, it depends on the area where you're applying. Some service centers are backed up, some are not. Right now with my cases, I'm seeing an average of 6 months. The quickest one I've had so far is 2.5 months. Do you know any company hiring college graduates from the Caribbean? So no at this time. While I do the immigration related with issues with moving from one country to the other, I don't place individuals with employers. So user 176, I have 484. So I'm not sure. Can you elaborate on that, please? How long VAWA case take to process? So VAWA cases is taking about 2 years. It could take more though. It depends on how you're applying for VAWA, through which relative are you applying for VAWA. How long does it take for a fiance visa? So it is taking over a year for fiance visas to be approved, and then for it to go through the process at the embassy. So ironically, the fiance visa was supposed to be a visa that takes a shorter time, a few months, for your fiance to come to the United States, where then you can pursue marriage and then the green card process. However, that as well is backlogged, and so you can be looking at over a year. Does getting married before receiving citizenship affect the time that you wait? Great question, Nicola Francis. I did a video on this. So if you are a green card holder and you're looking at 5 years, but say you got married, so say you just got your green card, you are looking at 5 years until you can apply for citizenship, but then you got married to a US citizen, then you'll have to wait for 3 years, as long as you stay married to that US citizen for the 3 years. Then you can apply after 3 years. Hi there, Dark Horse 45. Yes, exactly. You're getting closer. and you are welcome. I cannot wait. You crossed my mind today. I cannot wait to see you cross that threshold. Can I continue work if I didn't get my permit in time? Now, if you do qualify for that automatic extension, Marky, I don't know what kind of adjustment of status application you are applying for. I don't know any of your facts. However, right now, what's in place is an automatic 6 months extension. Now, oh yes, you didn't get the work permit, you didn't get the receipt notice. So in that case, it would be, you have to first establish if there is, if it's in process. Because if it's not, that could affect your ability to work. Because if it's not in process, that it wasn't properly filed, then that means that you wouldn't be granted that automatic 6 months extension. So make sure that you follow up on that user 176 to make sure it doesn't affect your ability to work. After receiving the biometrics paper, how long until the interview? So I can't tell you how long after the biometrics, but what I can say is that right now the interview is taking about 18 months to, it can be as short as 9 months, so it can be 9 months to 18 months after you apply. After I've been in the US for over 30 years, and now they say I need to update my green card, but they say I'm a permanent resident. So Allison Campbell, yes. So there in the past, they had a green card that could last forever. As long as it was intact, then that was valid. However, they did implement in the early 2000s, I believe due to national security, they implemented a new system where you had to renew it every 10 years. And that's where you have to make sure you go ahead and update your permanent resident card. But regardless, even if you don't have that card, you are still a permanent resident. But keep in mind that the law requires you to have evidence of your permanent residence via the card. But losing the card or not having the card or the expiration of the card does not mean that you lose your permanent residence. So great questions so far. These are all great questions. Keep your questions coming because that's why I'm here. I'm here to answer your questions. So why not take advantage of me being here? So Tug 1981, let us see if I can find your next question. So I was told that the lawyer cannot intervene at the interview. Is that true? So it's not necessarily true. Now, I don't know if you were speaking to your lawyer, but what usually happens is the attorney cannot stop you from answering a factual question. So if the officer asks you a question based on facts, you must answer that question. The attorney cannot answer it for you. However, if there is a legal issue that comes up, then the attorney can, and that's where the advocacy comes in, because the attorney can never answer factual questions for you. But if the interview is going in a direction that's not legal, or the officer is making an assumption that's not based on the correct legal basis, then in that case, the attorney can speak to the officer, and it's rather collegial. And in some cases, the officer is quite receptive to getting the attorney's input or listening out for what the attorney has to say. So that is an important part. But yes, they can't intervene when you are answering factual questions. So let's see. So Allison, I cannot receive an ID or anything. So yes, so Allison, what you can do is give me a call, schedule a consultation, and we'll talk more about what your situation is, and I can assist you with getting an updated card. So go ahead, call, schedule a consultation. I want to make sure. Now, generally speaking, when you're updating to a new card, it usually means that you have to submit a specific form. In this is in that what's called an I-90. Generally speaking, in your case, I don't know your facts, so this is not personal legal advice to you. I'm just giving you general information. If you want to look it up to get further guidance, you can always call to schedule a consultation and get legal representation through that process. What's the duration to get your green card in hand after you marry with the K1? So it's about 18 months to 24 months right now. Ross Verano, thanks for the follow. Padonus Creations, no, you're not late. You are coming at the right time. So if my friend decides to pay the $150 and he wants to get a green card, will you guys be in the process? So now, if he pays the $150, I'm assuming you're referring to my consultation fee. That does not guarantee my representation. What that $150 does is it guarantees legal advice during the consultation for up to an hour, where I discuss whether he qualifies, what he should be doing, making sure he's not making any mistakes, and then offer legal representation should he require it. So for $150, he still gets a good value in knowing what steps he needs to take. And then from there, I can provide him a quote to represent him through the rest of the process. And my quotes really depend on the substance of each person's circumstances. Then I can determine what it's going to take and so forth to represent them. So Padonus Creations, what's your cost for the consultation? So it's $150, which I just mentioned, and it's for up to an hour. I discuss your particular situation and whether what you qualify for, how you can go about getting the immigration benefit that you are looking into or that you have in mind. I am located in Boca Raton, Florida. I also do physical meetings with my clients in Fort Lauderdale, downtown Fort Lauderdale. However, keep in mind that I am not limited by borders or state lines. I represent clients all over the world as well as all over the United States. So if you need help, no matter where you are, I can help you. So Benji, no, I mean the adjustment of status after marriage. What's the duration? About 18 to 24 months. So he doesn't have anything and he's by himself. Can he still get a green card? Top man hunch. It depends on what his circumstances are. Now, there are ways to fix your status, especially if you have a qualifying relative. Other ways to do this, to get status in the United States is, for example, if he's been the victim of a crime or been the victim of trafficking. So it all depends. I mean, there are situations and facts that can come up in a consultation that can help me to find ways that they can fix their status and get their green card. It all depends though. I do many videos on certain ways. However, I don't do on all the ways because sometimes there are loopholes. Sometimes there are laws that are not necessarily very common, but that are available to get immigration relief. So if he really wants to figure out his options and how he can go approach his situation, he should schedule a consultation. Hi ma'am, I want to be a U.S. immigrant army. Is it really necessary to marry a citizen to get a green card? No, it is not absolutely necessary to marry a citizen. There are multiple ways through employment, through the other family members. So not marriage, but through a parent or through a child or even through a U.S. citizen sibling. Also, there's humanitarian means to obtain a green card as well. Padonus Creations. Oh, you are in Florida. That's great. If you need assistance, go ahead and schedule a consultation and we can start talking. So go ahead and do that. Now, to get in touch with me, you can call 561-405-4889, or you can go to the link in my bio. It's going to take you to the website where you can call the number, you can complete a contact form, and a scheduling coordinator will get back to you on the next business day. Right now, there is a scheduling coordinator who is available up until 11 p.m. tonight. How long after you get your green card can you file for your child? Right away. Thanks, ma'am, from the Philippines. Hi there. So keep those questions coming. I am also going to touch on how to fix your immigration status. If you are in the United States right now and you don't have your papers, but you want to have a way to stay in the United States. Now, if you are the immediate relative of a U.S. citizen, even if you overstayed your visa, but you must have shown that you came into the country legally with a visa or some sort of permission, then you can apply for adjustment of status. Now, as the immediate relative of a U.S. citizen, this is the spouse, the parent, or the citizen to the spouse, the parent of a U.S. citizen who is 21 and up, or the son or daughter of a U.S. citizen who is under 21 and unmarried. If you fall within this category, you could apply for the green card while being in the United States, even if you came into the country with if you overstayed, but you came into the country and overstayed your visa. So keep that in mind. Now, if you came into the country without permission, that's going to be a different process. It doesn't completely disqualify you from getting the green card, but you have to do another process, and it involves partially staying in the United States to obtain your green card. Overstaying on an H-2B visa for over 5 years and have a child here who is under 5. So unfortunately, pardon us creations, having a child who is under 21 isn't going to qualify you to get status. Right now, as the law stands, your child must be 21 or over to be able to sponsor you for the green card. My 485EB based move to field office, that means I'll get an interview. So that usually is an indication that it is going to start to be processed by the field office, and you'll likely have your interview at that field office. Is there a way to get a green card without getting married? There are ways through employment, through other family members, so a parent, parents, green card holder, or citizen parent, a citizen's son or daughter. So those are some of the ways. Would the work permit allow me to work on my C1D? So when you're talking about the C1D, you're not allowed to overstay your C1D. And if you do, if this is a crewman's visa, it could have very harsh consequences, because the crewman's visa, if you overstay, you wouldn't qualify for adjustment of status. So you have to be very, very, very careful with that. See Charlie, schedule a consultation and give me a call, and let's talk more about your situation. Because when you talk about that, now with the work permit, you usually have to apply for it when you're applying for the work permit or some other type of immigration benefit. And it doesn't, once you have another type of visa, it doesn't entitle you to get a work permit. So you have to be very careful there. So keep your questions coming, because I'm here to answer your immigration questions. And so far, these have been awesome questions. And this is exactly why I'm here. I have been discussing in between questions how to fix your status. And I talked about applying for the green card as an immediate relative of a U.S. citizen. If you came into the country with a visa, even if you overstayed it, then there is a way to apply for the green card while you're in the United States, and get a work permit while you wait for the process to be completed. So that is a very, very good benefit of immediate relatives of U.S. citizens. If you don't fall within this category, the next one is, do you have a relative that's not applying for you? Or do you have a green card holder or U.S. citizen spouse? Do you have a green card holder or citizen parent if you're under 25? Or are you do you have a citizen son or daughter who's 21 and up, and are they mistreating you? So if they're mistreating you, it doesn't have to just be physically, and it doesn't have to involve the police or hospital or physical injuries. If they're mistreating you verbally, mentally, emotionally, even financially, then there is still a way to apply for the green card without your relative and stay in the United States, get a work permit while the process is pending. So this is another way, because there are situations where you may have a toxic U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident spouse. If you're under 25, a parent, or even a son or daughter who's 21 and up, they're toxic. They've been putting you through the ringer. They've been emotionally abusing you, and you are going through all of that without your papers. If that's the case, then you should definitely look at applying for the green card on your own. What if you overstay a B1, B2 visa, but then your spouse files an I-130? So if your spouse is a U.S. citizen, and as long as you don't have any other disqualifying issues in your background, like criminal issues or other immigration violations, then you should be able to adjust status in the United States. If you overstayed your visitor's visa and your spouse is a green card holder and you've fallen out of status, then they could definitely file the I-130, but you wouldn't qualify to stay in the United States and apply for the green card. And if you overstay over 180 days, you'll need to apply for an unlawful presence waiver that would allow you to leave the United States. Okay, so he is a permanent resident. So if you overstayed, and he's a permanent resident and he's not going to become a U.S. citizen anytime soon, and you want to go forward with the green card process with him as a permanent resident, and you are out of status and you've overstayed by over 180 days, you need to file for what's called an unlawful presence waiver. You can wait in the U.S. while you get a decision. If it's approved, all being well, then you could leave, attend the interview, and then come back about 2 to 3 weeks later after getting your immigrant visa. So that in a nutshell is the smooth process, the smooth waiver process, of course. If you're in this situation, before you do anything, schedule a consultation and get legal advice. I can't stress that enough, because you could make devastating mistakes. I've seen individuals submit applications like that thinking they qualify for adjustment of status, and then they get denied, and then they're now in trouble and they have to file for a waiver and wait 2 more years or a few more years for the waiver to be approved. So it's very important that before you apply for anything, that you get legal advice to make sure that you avoid devastating problems and issues. So great questions so far. These are the exact type of questions that I want to be answering. So keep those questions coming. If you're going through a situation, there's no such thing as a dumb question here. I want to hear your questions, no matter how simple it is, and even if it's complex. So if it is super complex, I will definitely let you know that you have to sit down in a consultation to figure it out. But it doesn't hurt to ask, to see if you can get some guidance as to some general information about what direction you need to be going in, or whether you even need to consult an attorney. So I have been also talking about applying for the green card, even if you're out of status, basically how to fix your status if you're in the United States. I talked about being the immediate relative of a U.S. citizen who came into the country with a visa or some sort of permission. I also talked about mistreatment. So if certain relatives, U.S. citizen or green card holder relatives, are mistreating you, and you don't have to put up with that. You can apply for the green card based on your own, based on this mistreatment. Now, these relatives that are mistreating you would be the U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident spouse. If you're under 25, a parent. If you are, if you have a U.S. citizen son or daughter who's 21 and up, if they as well, if they're mistreating you, this could qualify you. So can we file the waiver while the I-130 is pending? So the way that this waiver process works is, first you apply for the I-130. Once it's approved, then you submit the I-130 with the waiver. And then when the waiver is approved, then at that point, you would be able to go to the interview in your home country. Now, let me talk more about the waiver itself, because I don't want you to get the wrong idea about the waiver. The waiver is not a simple fill in the blanks type of form. This is dependent. To qualify for the waiver, you'll have to have a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident, spouse or parent. So if you have either a spouse or parent, in this case, Nadia, you have a spouse who will experience extreme hardships without you. Now, extreme hardship, this is where the work comes in, because you must show extreme hardships, that these extreme hardships are more than just a mere inconvenience, more than the typical hardship. So you would not necessarily just list out all the ways that your spouse is going to miss you. You'll have to list out all the ways that your spouse is dependent on you to the point that they will face severe hardships. It will affect them severely, affect them economically, affect them in regards to opportunities of employment, affect them in regards to their health, affect them in regards to their financial condition. So it takes a lot of legal know-how, strategy, and coordination to get this right, because there are these requirements. Now, if your spouse has to relocate with you, then that also could be an extreme hardship. If they're going to face cultural issues, if they're going to face crime in the country, if they're going to face a lack of access to health care. So these are examples of extreme hardship. Sexy and 35. If you married a citizen, how long you take to get the green card? So if you married a U.S. citizen and a smooth process, it should be it can be as little as 9 months and as much as 24 months. Now, one thing I want to urge you and give you a tip here is that what I notice is that when you submit your application, if it's lacking in evidence, if it's not a strong application, if there are any concerns that the officer sees that makes them want to review your application further, this can lead to delay. Now, don't just rush and file your application without the evidence and then decide, okay, I'm going to submit the evidence later. This can lead to a delay. Sometimes it's unavoidable and you have to submit the evidence later, but keep in mind that if you do submit the evidence later, it's going to cause a delay because they're not going to make a decision without the required evidence. In addition, one thing I see is if you go to your interview and you decide to take your evidence there instead of attaching it during the initial preparation of the application, that could lead to further delay. I'm seeing cases go over, and these are cases where individuals come to me for help. Their cases are going over 2 years because of the deficient evidence that they submitted in the first place. So preparation of the application is the most important part of the application process because it sets the tone for the rest of the application. Keep that in mind. So Tug 1981, let's see. I did not see your question. Can you retype? Because I'm just going through these questions. I'm trying to get to everybody's questions. So Tug, just go ahead and retype your question. Okay, if you're not married and you want a green card, do you have to be in the U.S.? Do you help with work permits also? So I do help with work permits, but keep in mind that there's a difference between employment-based visas and work permits. Work permits usually are attached to certain applications for immigration benefits, like maybe T visa, victims of trafficking, victims of crime. If you're applying for a green card in the United States, you may be able to get a work permit while you're in the United States. Employment-based visas, you'll have to have an employer who's willing to sponsor you to come to the United States. So I do work with clients in all those cases, but I want you to keep that in mind. And yes, there are ways to apply for the green card outside of the United States, but it depends on how you qualify. So what if you're married and you file a divorce because your spouse is cheating on you, but let's see where the but is. I don't see the rest of the question. That's right. Marrying a citizen, is that the only way after overstaying for more than 5 years? So no, not just marrying, but if you're the immediate relative of a U.S. citizen child, 21 and over, that could be one way. If you are the son or daughter under 21, I don't know how old you are, but in this case, I know you have a 5-year, a child who's under 5, but I don't know how old you are. But if you're under 21 and unmarried, and you are the relative of, and your parent is a U.S. citizen, that could be another way. Also, another way is if you have been the victim of a crime and you received a U visa or a T visa. First, as a victim of a crime or the victim of trafficking, you could get the U or T visa, and then afterwards you could adjust status in the United States. Yassi3031, thanks for sharing the live. So that's right. So you are in the USA. So let's see. So what if you're married and you file a divorce because your spouse is cheating on you, but you are in the USA? So I don't know if that's a divorce question. You should be able to divorce your spouse in the United States. Consult a divorce attorney who can help you with that part. However, if you're in the United States and you got a divorce from a U.S. citizen spouse, then I would want to talk to you more about what were the circumstances in the marriage. So there was cheating. Was there also cheating? Can be a form of mistreatment if it's associated with other types of behaviors against you. And so I want to hear more about that situation because it could possibly qualify you for the green card on your own. Now, if you even divorce your spouse, that's the important thing here. Even if you divorce your spouse and you've been divorced for less than 2 years, you could still qualify for this type of green card based on mistreatment. So that is also a very important little known fact that I want to put out there. Sexy Annie, 35, you're welcome. So that's right, definitely. Now what you can do, that's right, is call 561-405-4889. You will get either a scheduling coordinator or you will get the after hours receptionist who will take your information, and then the scheduling coordinator will get back to you, schedule the consultation. So that the way that I talk to clients, I don't do legal advice through email or through direct messenger. It must be in a consultation because the information I'm giving you here is general information. And so in order to really give you accurate information, it must be in the personal consultation. I had signed up for a consultation, but before I want to know if my case is possible. So Camps 356, I don't give you legal advice here. It must be in a consultation. And you do get that value of knowing what you qualify for, what your options are in the future. So you must do the consultation to even know if your case is possible, because I don't want to tell anybody that their situation is not possible without evaluating all the facts. And I can't do that in a live where I'm giving general information. Italia and so I hope Camps 356, I can speak with you in a consultation. Italia, Alfonso, great. Go ahead, put your questions in the comments. That is exactly why I am here, is to answer your immigration related questions. So I talked about 2 ways to fix your status. So the first is to apply for the green. So Camps 356, if you have an attorney, then it's really up to you to decide whether you would like to change attorneys, whether you would like to get a second opinion. However, I cannot solicit anybody who is already represented by an attorney. I can't represent an individual who is already represented by an attorney. And if you already have an attorney, you should definitely speak to your attorney about whether you have a case. Shantoya Mighty, how can a person get a green card without being married? So there are different ways through employment, there are some humanitarian ways. So if you got asylum, if you got the TRU visa, that could also be a way. And through other family members as well, a parent or a sibling, a U.S. citizen sibling, even a U.S. citizen son or daughter who's 21 and up. So if I'm a green card holder marrying a non-citizen of the U.S., can my husband be in the U.S. while I apply? So Italia Alfonso, if your spouse can maintain their status in the United States while they go through the process, yes. However, if their visa or status is going to expire at some point, then they would need to go back to their home country because they wouldn't qualify to stay in the U.S. and apply through the entire process. This is where I say definitely schedule a consultation and get legal advice before you do anything, because it's very important at this point to make sure you do everything correctly and you don't apply and then find out that they overstayed because you didn't know they could apply. They couldn't apply here. So very important. How long you have to be a permanent resident to file for citizenship? So generally 5 years if you married a U.S. citizen, 3 years as long as you show that you've been married to this citizen for 3 years. Camps 356, you're welcome. Taria Hines, if you're not in the U.S., how will it work? So it depends, Taria, on how you qualify. Through family, do you qualify through an employer? So that is going to all depend. So let's see, Tuk Tuk. So I see your question saying, hi, can you see my question? Tuk Tuk, can you go ahead and put that question in the Q&A feature? And Italia Alfonso, you are welcome. So Tuk Tuk 1981, can you go ahead, put your question in the Q&A option so I can get your question? Because I'm seeing your comment saying, can you see my question? But I'm not seeing the question itself. So keep your questions coming. These are all awesome questions. And Taria Hines, you're welcome. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to answer your questions. Now, if you want to learn more about me as the attorney, the law firm, ST Law Office, and you want to get in touch with the firm, you can go to the link in my bio. And when you go to the website, there's a contact form you can complete. So if sometimes that's very useful, if you have a hard time getting through the phone line, sometimes they get very busy. So if the phone lines are busy, or if you just feel comfortable with submitting your information and then we call you back, that's fine. Now there is a scheduling coordinator who is available up until 11 p.m. tonight to to schedule your consultation. How soon after you marry a green card holder can you get a green card? So right now, I would say it's taking about 2 years. Prepare for a 2-year process. It could be less, could be more, but right now. Now, I like to say now is a good time to apply. If you have a green card holder spouse, because there's no wait list for an immigrant visa number right now, they are processing it similar to how it would be if your green card holder spouse was a U.S. citizen. So it's about the same processing time right now. It's a good time to apply because that could always change. That's not usually the case. Usually it takes years. Now it's taking about the same time as it would if you had a U.S. citizen spouse. So start with a consultation. Make sure, especially if you're already in the United States and you're out of status, you want to make sure you get a legal consultation first to make sure you're on the right track, because it gets a little more complicated if you're out of status. It doesn't disqualify you from getting the green card, but it will be a different process. You're welcome, Beauty Palace. So keep your questions coming. I am here to answer your questions, and these so far have been amazing questions. These are the exactly the type of questions that I want to get. So Taria Hines, no. I represent clients all over the world because my job is to help people to come from other countries to the United States. Now, I don't do any other type of immigration. So I don't do immigration to England or Canada, only the United States. What evidence can you take to your interview if your interview comes before your work permit? Tug 98, 1981. Finally, your question came across. Now, it depends. You want to take as much evidence as you can. Take evidence that you're living together. Take your pictures. Take anything that has changed, any new evidence that you did not submit that shows that you continue to have a bona fide marriage, if this is a bona fide based on a marriage. So joint lease, joint property, benefits, insurance policies, joint insurance, so car insurance, if you are on the same car, if you own the same car, things of that nature. If you're expecting a child, or if you have a child already, because the process is taking long, you could have a child as well. So these would all be good evidence to take with you. But keep in mind, this is general information, Tug 1981. I don't know what your situation is, so I can't advise you on specific evidence that you may be thinking of, or that may be good for your particular case. Shantoya Mighty, what are the steps to when trying to get it on your own? So if you're getting it on your own based on mistreatment, the first step is to file the application with the evidence. Now, once you file that, then there's a biometrics appointment. Then about 6 to 8 months, you'll get the work permit. And then about 2 years, around 2 years later, you would have your scheduled adjustment of status interview where you could get the green card finally. But you would be able to get a work permit while you wait. And they are issuing 2-year work permits right now, which is awesome. How long will it take for a sibling to file for a sibling? Janet Hill, a minimum of 14 years. If you do not have legal stay in the U.S., is it possible to get an SSN? So no, if you are not here, if you're here without your papers, you will not be able to get an SSN. There is what's called an ITIN, a number, and that's for the purpose of anybody and everybody applying for their taxes. So to apply for your taxes, because even if you're without status, you can still apply for your taxes. And so there are ways to apply for that. If you want to learn how to apply for the ITIN number, you could check out the irs.gov website. You can also look for agents that help individuals to get their ITIN number. I applied for husband 20 years ago. I'm a US born. He has a 245I. He was in and out of US 6 months, no attorney. So this sounds like a complex process. Whenever you're talking about the 245I provision, then yes, it's going to be a little more complicated, but that does let me know that there is a way for him to get status, especially if he came into the country without permission. So if he came into the country without permission, but he had a filing previously and falls under the 245I, then he could possibly have a way. Schedule a consultation, because this is a little more complicated, Yolanda, and I would need to sift through your facts a little more closely to make sure that you qualify. Now, the scheduling coordinator is available up until 11 p.m. So now is the time to get it out of the way, schedule a consultation, and get with me to talk about your situation. Talk 1981. I'm glad that I could finally answer your question. Janet Hill, you're welcome. Lexi, you're welcome. Nadia, you are welcome, and I'm glad that you've learned a lot. Awesome. And Lexi, I'm glad. That's why I'm here. That's why I do this every night, to be able to give you information that you may not know about, or information, answer your questions. Sometimes those little nagging questions keep you up at night, and I want to be here to answer those questions for you. Thank you so much, everyone, for these awesome questions. That is going to be it for me tonight. I also touched on, through your questions, I also touched on ways to fix your immigration status. And so thank you for helping me through my topic by asking these awesome questions as well. I will be back tomorrow, so this is not the end. If you continue to have questions, Dark Horse 45, it's always a pleasure and you are welcome. Now, if you continue to have questions, you can log in and thank you, Lexi. You can log in when I'm going live. If you follow me, you'll get notice that I'm live and you can hop on, ask your questions right away because that's what I'm here for. Even if I'm talking, start putting your questions in. Thanks so much, everyone, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.